Ta-da! I'm on time-ish for a change. Greetings, welcome, hello, how are we? I hope you've had a fun and entertaining week, and welcome to Live from the Loft, part 15, something like that now, which is quite a jump, so all things going well. Trying to make these fairly regular for a change. Welcome, just covering off a few fun things today. I've got a couple of Sophoses to play with and to run through. I thought I'd go through and highlight a few important changes that are hopefully going to be a good thing for people after Sophos firewalls. Welcome, Richard. So yeah, hopefully a good thing for people who are after second-hand Sophos firewalls, because this year there are quite a few of the SG range of firewalls and the XG range that are becoming end of life in the grand scheme for Sophos, which means that there should be more appearing second-hand, because obviously us as Sophos partners should be out there cycling them through to XGS series devices now. So I thought I'd cover that off today in this live, and we'll go through, have a look and see what the going rate is, and I'll give you some pointers as to what is correctly priced, what is overpriced, what is worth avoiding because it's got no foreseeable use in the future, things like that. So hopefully it should be a bit useful, and as ever, any questions, anything else that I can answer while I'm here. I've got most things sort of fairly relevant. I've got Unify kit here, I've got Ubiquity, I've got Sophos kit, I've got all sorts tucked in and around here for answering questions, giving my opinion on things. And yes, that's where I thought we'd go today. It's a bit warm up here. There may be a bit of a background hum, for which I apologise. That's because the fan is on up there, pulling some of the heat out of this place, because it does get a little bit warm when it gets hot. But other than that, I hope everyone else is all okay. I hope you've all had good weeks. And I don't think anything really exciting has stirred up this week. So, yeah, not much else going on other than that. I am going to whiz and flick over, grab the camera down, because I'm here. You can come round, and we'll just put the camera down over here, because this, get some angle on it, there we go. This is a XG106, well, this is the insides of an XG106. Now, if you are someone who is looking at buying a second-hand Sophos firewall and using it for home, as it stands, the XG series are the newest that seem to be able to run home. I haven't got my hands on an XGS that I can play with yet to be able to at least try and load Sophos home on. So this is an XG106. I've got a 135, which 135? Is it 135? Yes. I've got a 135 sat over to the left, which I'll get onto in a bit. But the one thing that you with any XG or newer XG series that you will have to do on these smaller units is you have to swap out this here, which is the M-SATA. Lift it up in here. We've got a 64 gig A data M-SATA. Now this one, amusingly, I've already swapped and loaded because I was testing to make sure it worked. And this is the M-SATA that I originally took out of this, which is the XG135 that I do have. Here it is. So the it's a bit odd. I don't quite know what Sophos do to them, but if you leave the original M-SATA in and you load a software image on here, it will come up with the error, hardware device detected, get the hardware image, and won't go any further. If you swap the M-SATA over for a M-SATA out of a different device, so this device's M-SATA is in here, it will load. It will still come up saying Sophos hardware device detected. It picks up that there's a hardware device in it. But it will then carry on and load, because obviously it knows that it's not a original hardware device, or it picks up something not right with it. So, yeah, bit interesting. The only thing I need to check now is if I put this one's MSATA in this, if it will load. So we'll try that later on. That there a minute, out the way. So yes, this is a XG106. This is one of the smallest XG units. The only one below this is the XG86, which is even more compact than this. I've got a couple of them sat here, but these make great sort of small, if you need a small little home firewall, but it's still powerful, but is able to be quite compact, low power. These are quite an alright device. You just have to be a bit patient with them, because they're little atoms and they're not the fastest thing, but they get there. And they do the job. So they're not designed to be fast, but as you can see around the back, we have got 2 power supply inputs available, so you can run dual power supplies on this. Got power switch, which is blue at the moment. We've got HDMI out, obviously for displaying out. We've got a USB for obviously either a keyboard or a USB stick, same with that one, for basically enabling you to load a hardware image or software image back on if you need to do a factory reset. We've got a serial port, serial USB port, which you plug the cable in. It's got a USB to serial adapter built in. Then we've got the SFP port, which is shared with port 4. We've got, as it's labelled here, by default it should be LAN, WAN, DMZ, and then the shared port. But because we've loaded the software image, instead of port 1 being port 1, port 4 is port 1, which is often the case on the smaller firewalls, that these numbers are reversed. So I don't know quite what is going on, whether that's... No, just check to see if any of these are live for the WAN port. No, it hasn't brought that live yet. So port 4 is live. It's basically as Ethernet 0. You can see obviously I've got the front off at the moment. But it comes with a whopping 4 gig of RAM. Which you could put an 8 gig stick in these in theory. But it's not going to help massively with the old speed, because that's basically what it's designed to be. It's only designed to be a small firewall, and it was only ever designed to deal with quite a low throughput. But I thought, you know what, let's get this one loaded up. So if I flick over to there, this is this firewall already. This is basically, we'll just run through and set this firewall up while I'm here. I'm going to give this a new password. It's already should be up to date, so there shouldn't be a need to install any updated firmware. What I would like to do at some point is do a HA pair with some of the smaller firewalls. I've got a pair of 86s, so I might try and do that. Have I left this too long? Has it timed me out? Possibly. Try again. It is one of those weird things I've often found with the Sophos, is that software image does seem to occasionally require a kick up the arse. But we'll see. That's why we're doing it live. Yep. Ooh. Let's go for a close it and reopen it. 172 U. Let's try that again. Probably where I had that page open for a couple of hours, actually. You gonna work? That's better. We'll see how well it behaves. Let's turn that off a minute. Okay, port 2. Which is port 2? Let's find out. Is it you? Is it you? Or have I got a duff cable? Might have a duff cable. I didn't test this cable. Oh no, there we go. There we go. So, again, it's a bit of a hit and miss as to which ports do what. Wait for it to sort itself out a second. That's better. Right, okay. Call this XG106. Let's put you out the way for the minute because you're in my way. XG106. Next. Let's start a trial. No, I don't need to start a trial. Let's not register now. And we'll get in and get set up. Evaluating all the things. Don't need to opt in. I'm going to leave this one on its default IP because I don't need to change it. Just want to see how well it performs. Or if it even performs at all. That will be the question. It will either perform averagely, which is what I'm expecting. Connected to the internet, that's fine. Don't need to worry about them. Don't need to worry about that because I'm not doing that at the moment. User, that's name.com. Don't need to worry about that because I'm not sending anything. And we'll let it finish itself. And wait for it to apply its settings. And while it's doing that, I'm going to slide the front cover back onto it just to stop me dropping anything in it. I don't need to get back into the unit, so it can be put back together. What did I do with my little screwdriver? Had it here a second ago because I was putting stuff back together. There it is. Screw you back together. while we wait for it to sort out its configuration. Bloody thread lock on these. I mean, they put enough bloody screws in this to hold the case on. Like, 4. 4 would be plenty. But instead we've got screws on the front, on the side, on the back. Hi Jack, welcome, welcome. We're playing Sophos today. I thought I'd get some Sophoses fired up and go through a few things. And we'll see what's available. I'm obviously going to be doing this from a UK perspective, being in the UK, but we'll see what's out and about. And see what we can come up with. I'm just putting the lid back on this one while it finishes doing its thing. Sophos have decided that they need like 1,000,000 screws just to hold the case on a tiny little firewall. In fact, I don't even think the big firewalls have got this many screws in them. I can actually state that I think to get the lid off of a bigger firewall takes like 4 screws, if that, maybe 3. But hey ho. I need to get Sophos rack mount one. Well, give me 2 minutes and I'll pull some rack mount ones. I say I'll go through with what is available, and it's going to depend. If you're doing it for home, then this is fine. If you're doing it for business, you will obviously need to license them, which we'll go through that shortly once I've finished reassembling this. There we go. And we're up and running. Right, all the screws are in. Check, check, checkity check. Put you over there out the way for the minute. And let's sign in. And see what we get. I mean, it's going to depend. So ISP to Sophos to MikroTik routers. I mean, so that means you're going to want to go into bridge mode with the Sophoses. I've never done it because I've never had a need to. No, Keeper, I don't need you to save the password. Wait for it to finish booting everything up, getting me in. I'll turn some services on, and that will cause it to slow down a bit more because this is quite a low spec little unit. Uptime, 1 day, 10 minutes. That's about right. So what service is not fired? Show me later. That's why it's starting. It's a bit sluggish. because it's probably having to go through and get all of the firmwares. Yeah, registration is deferred, but that means that you should be doing all your pattern updates. IPS needs to be turned on. So first thing we'll do is get intrusion prevention on. On. And that will update the relevant signatures. Let's just see how we are doing. We should have quite a ridiculously high CPU load still at the moment because it's going to be processing everything while it downloads all the parts. Most of the features work, I believe. We'll have a play with it in a minute. The way it should work is it should effectively intercept everything. But there are certain limitations with bridge mode that I think apply to pretty much every firewall, unless you're going to throw tens, 20s, 30s, thousands of monies at them. There we go. Yeah, that's what I expected to see. If we go a bit weird, it's because this machine at some point will potentially start trying to send data through this. But we'll see what it does. Let's see if we've got any network traffic going on at the moment. Probably will have. Little bit. I say bridge mode is a weird sort of one. Generally, these firewalls are designed to sit between the network and the router. So you'd have the router on the outside to a certain degree. You wouldn't have these on the public network. You have these on the private network, and then the router is on the outside of them. It's better. Everything is up and running, so we should have everything happy, or as happy as can be with this small little unit. That's all fine. Get rid of you. Be gone, Sophos assistant. I said be gone. Check through everything quickly. Yeah, so your ISP will be giving your public IP addresses to obviously you've got your ISP modem. Effectively, what you should have is the ISP. The ISP modem should then connect to your router. Your router should then have the firewall behind it. If you have it the other way round, effectively what you've done is put a transparent firewall. You won't actually have the firewall in the right place from memory. Might be wrong, but generally you'd have it the other side of the router. So you present your interface with your public IP to the internet, and then traffic coming into that then gets routed off to the relevant internal services that you need, if you need them, and that then in turn goes through the firewall. I mean, if you need to do actually any firewalling, you just basic firewalling, you would put that into the MikroTiks that you've got, and then from there, this would do. So that would do the a lot of the port-based rules, and then this would do the packet inspection. Because effectively, you're doing to all intents and purposes with this in bridge mode, you're doing an any rule. Yeah, it goes advert, Juniper ISP router, yeah, that's it, and then MikroTik, yes. Yeah, so they are doing the first, effectively, they've got the to what is intense, they've got a /30 address. You're given a /29 normally. That's obviously on a leased line, yeah. So if you want to do that, yeah, this needs to sit, effectively, this sits directly behind the MikroTik, on where the MikroTik connects into your switching. So this is then inspecting all traffic that is going in and out of the network, and then through the router. So I do it on a much smaller scale because I've got a baby MikroTik. And let's go that way, shall we? So in theory, let me work out how this would work. Yeah, the problem with that is technically the Sophos is then on the internet still, so it needs to be the Sophos needs to be this side. It needs to be on the internal side of the MikroTik. Let's have a quick look a minute, because give me 2 seconds. I'm just going to flick back to me here. Hello. While I pull something up from Sophos. Because there are certain things that I can show you, and there are certain things that I can't show you on the Sophos website, because we have access to not for public disclosure stuff. So you're planning on running multiple MikroTiks or multiple internal routers. I mean, normally that's fine, but it's effectively you could do that because you could effectively run each interface through the Sophos if you've got a big enough Sophos. Yeah, no, that's one of the big problems. That's one of the big things that they don't do, is they don't do. They're great for so much, but at the same time, they also have their limitations because the hardware they use. There's no way you could do DPI scanning and everything, offload and antivirus scanning and web filtering on a MikroTik, because the CPU in them is only a little baby ARM thing normally, and it would collapse in a heap because it's not designed for that specific purpose. Let me just find the relevant bit from Sophos a minute, because there is a guide, but it's just they keep moving stuff around. Can't find it a second. Right, doing things. There we go. So deploying a Sophos firewall in bridge mode. So as you can see on this, you've got your internet. So treat that as basically this is your Juniper. Now you've got your Juniper, you then come into your so I have about 6 MikroTik routers that get plugged into the ISP router with a public IP to each. Yes, that's fine. That's not an issue. The thing I'm just trying to work on is how you would do that whilst, because the Sophos can't go in front of that. That's the problem. The Sophos, at that point, the Sophos is then unable to do what it needs to do because it's trying to deal with. Effectively, it's in the way. It won't really do what you want it to do. It sort of would, because you'd be going between two. You'd be on a /30, but at the same time, it's quite a risk because you've put the Sophos on the wrong side of a firewall. So you want the Sophos effectively. You want the Sophos internally. Any firewall and bridge, you want it behind the routers. So like here, you've got basically treat that as your Juniper, that as your MikroTik, and then you put the Sophos behind it. The only thing that will be interesting is if you've got multiple MikroTiks. I can't see why you couldn't VLAN the ports and bridge. So in the, where are you? Where have you gone? Not you, not you, not you, not you, you. So in here, you would create bridged pairs effectively. So what you are doing is you go add bridge. And so you'd have port 1 and port 2. And that puts them on the relevant parts. And that bridges them. You're always going to need a management address as well. So you are going to need something. Well, so you're going to need something with at least probably that many ports. So this is a 230, and this is probably, depending on the traffic speed, this is probably too small. So you've got a /28, /27, a /27. So you've got what, 32? It's a lot of IPs. That's a lot of IPs. What services are you planning to run? I'm guessing you're going to be hosting some servers. I mean, this is the thing. This is where, when you're dealing with that amount of traffic, this is where the costs go up. I mean, in terms of, if you're planning on running it as a business, then obviously it's not the end of the world, because anything you buy is a business expense and you can write it off as cost of doing business. Trying to think, what have I got here? 330, a 230, a 210, lots of 450s. I mean, we're lucky here, Richard. I can apply for. So what, if you can, what is it you're hosting out of interest? We're lucky. I mean, here I've got 5 IP addresses. I can apply for more because technically we are our own ISP, although we partner with an ISP. I can request a certain amount. I can request 16s and think slashes. I can request /29s. I can request /28s. Much above that, you start to have to give justification. That's one of the things we do have, is you have to be able to justify why you want so many IP addresses. And if it's a business, normally it'll be, well, you're doing this because we need individual IP addresses for XYZ services. But I mean, the problem is you're looking at something at least this size, probably closer to this size. So this is a XG450, but it's not so much the throughput you're dealing with. Yeah, this is probably exactly the same as us. But you're going to be looking at something this size to do the processing. I mean, maybe for a gig, you could probably get away with a 300 series now, or a 3000 series as they are now. So XGS, this is an XG450. This is a Xeon in here. We'll fire that up later, maybe. Because I can't lift everything out of the way because I've got so many bloody Sophoses here. So let's just, out of interest, let's just pair ports. So what ports are live at the moment? Because the problem is I don't know at the moment what ports are what with this unit, because so is it 1, 2? Is that port? So port 3 and port 4. So let's have a laugh. Let's bond port 3 and port 4. Port 3, port 4, WAN, pretty sure. So bridge mode, WAN, DH, so it's fine. And I'm going to want something to run through it. I know. Right, move that over there for a minute. I'm going to grab you. Put you in there. And I'm going to grab another cable from somewhere. Find me an network cable. Where have I got one? Let's go with... Let's go with the green one from here. So let's plug you into there and you into there. Now, if you're using it for anything business related, then you will have to pay because it's a business. The home use license covers for home non-commercial use only, so you would need to buy a license. It's the same with anything at this level. You have to pay to play effectively if you're using it for business. If you're using it for home or you're using it for testing, fine. Now again, it's going to depend upon what you want to do with it. Let me just, so let's give this a name. We'll call this test bridge and hardware bridge 0. Don't need routing, don't need IP address, I don't think. Hold on. Okay. Switch back to here. So this is all fun and games and new, so that's fine. Blah 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 blah. Got all that. So simplest Sophos licensing, there's 3 levels: standard, extreme with web application filter, and email. Now if you only want this for packet filtering, I would, if you're going with a hardware appliance, then you'd want extreme, because if you're going for an XGS, which is the current series, you want to make use of the offloading CPU. If you are going like this with just a loaded appliance, then the normal one will probably be okay. There's certain features that come with each, but generally, as long as you just want to do basic filtering, stuff like that, it's either standard or extreme. You can split it down and go custom, but it doesn't actually benefit you really. You can... Hold on, let's get this. So just make sure I'm doing this right. Don't need to worry about that. It's all fine. Don't need to do that. Right, that's correct. Let's add them for a laugh. Web security is their web application filter, which is okay. It's just like any WAF. The email security, again, if you're having emails coming in and out of the system, yes, that is part of it. Right. So we've got our bridge built now. There's our bridge, 2 physical devices. Now, in theory, I can create, so we get an idea of what traffic is going over them. I can actually create a firewall rule that says source zone is LAN, port is port, see if I can, should have the option of port 3. So if we are going 0 to 1, 2, so we're going in on 3 and we're going out on 4. Destination zone 1. Any. Put you at the top for now. And bridge test. Accept log. And we'll just do that for the minute, because basically all I've got running through that port at the moment is a Dream Machine. So I just want to see if we get any traffic running backwards and forwards through that port to that Dream Machine. Oh, where have you put it? There you are, bridge test. So in theory, I should be able to go allow LAN to WAN general. Let's save that. And we'll just see what we come up with. See what we get. And once that's finished creating itself, okay, that's fine. Just have a quick look, make sure I'm doing everything correct. Right. Again, it's going to take a bit of playing because I've never set up a bridge on one of these before. Let's have a look. Bridge. Gateway. I mean, the other option you've got is to ditch the Micritics altogether. You just use the Sophos at that point. It depends what you want to do. If you are trying to do a... if you're trying to do a one-to-one NAT, or if you're trying to pass public IP addresses through so that your servers get their public IPs, then no. There's not easily. You at that point, what you end up having to do with Sophos is you would have the interface going to the Juniper, or multiple interfaces going to the Juniper, and then you start I'll show you. You basically start adding IP aliases, and then you can create a one-to-one NAT. That's not a problem. You can do this. pfSense has the ability to do these sorts of things as well. It just, if you want to, so you public IP pass through, so you're passing the public IPs on through to the servers, which no, you can't do that with the Sophos. The Sophos will get in the way, but that's what it's designed to do. It's designed to be the edge of your network, and therefore you have your private servers effectively doing that. That's where having it in a transparent mode is beneficial, because obviously it's inspecting the public IPs. But at the same time, it depends what you're going to be running. This is the thing. It's all going to come down to how you're going to be running and maintaining things, because if you're dealing with it, then actually it may be more beneficial to you. If your clients are dealing with it, then that's another question. So let's just see if we've got anything. Nothing yet. So need to work out what's going on and what I've done wrong, because I've probably done something wrong, but it's all normal. Not fussed about that, not fussed about that. That is obviously assuming that this thing has picked up. No, it's not connected. Let's just give that a reboot a minute, and we'll see, because again, I've never done a bridge on one of these because I've never needed to, but why not? Don't need to worry about that. So hopefully, he says, hopefully we should be able to make this work. And excuse me. Just going through, making sure I've got all this correct. I'm pretty sure it's correct. Yeah, I mean, that should be right. Yeah, it's... so anything, so it's add for Juniper and Juniper to oh, got one of them there. Each port on microchip is for a customer that has a has an RB. Okay. I mean, in theory, you could do it. I'm just... Let's just let this thing... Hold on. That's just booting up. In theory, this is how it should be set up. You set up a bridge between the relevant ports. There are certain features, as it says, that will not work. So, deploying in a bridge. Is it actually giving us a... Let's have a look. It might be a configuration that I've done. No, that's correct. So I've got an IP, so we've got the bridge. That's the bridge interface. I mean, effectively, if you're handing the public... Well, you're not handing the public IP through as such. You're just... It's a one-to-one NAT with it. Yeah, so it's destination NAT and it's a mask on it. So it does make it a bit... well, obviously makes it transparent in theory through to the end. Let's just see if we can get this to play ball a minute. And then the next step is to try it on a bigger router, which means I've got to fire up one of the bigger boys. You up and running yet? No internet. So at the moment I've got no internet saying, or it's saying that there's no internet. Now, is that because... That is because there is no internet. That would be why. Hold on. It's alright, that's my own stupidity. No, you can stay in there. I need another jumper cable. So if we go from you... I don't know how you do have internet, because you're going to there, you're going to there. No, that's correct. There should be internet there. Okay. Well, let me just try and let's see if we can get this bridge working a minute. It should work. Let's just stick an any in there a minute. Let's find out why it's not behaving. Because we should be able to packet inspect traffic going through the bridge. I'm trying to remember the firewall rules for it. Let's see if we can find this routing. Rules. Firewall rules. Let's just flick over a second to there while I go hunting, because it's easier. Right. Got to actually look into some stuff myself, because this is one of those things that has never really do I need to do that? Hold on. Add a nat roll. New rule, original source. Port 3. Don't know, not gonna be any. Because we want inbound interface. Outbound interface. Bridge. Might be what's doing it. Let's have a laugh and a look. Oh, yeah, it does that. Right. Sorry, I'm just playing around with NAT rules at the moment. In here. Because I don't need it masquerading. So original source only, destination service, blah blah blah. Let's stick that to any. See what we get then. No, at some point it will start working. It's just finding out why it doesn't. I mean, that rule anyway will catch most things. Oh, that's right. That's linked. That might be why. No, that should be correct because I want it. Oh, unless do I need it onto test bridge? Let's have a look. I don't think it does. There it is. Right, let's do that. Let's try that. Yeah, there's it depends how proprietary certain things are. I mean, there's a limit to what Sophos will support, just because of what's practical for them to deal with. Still not getting anything. Interesting. Okay, let's try some more fun. Problem is, there's a lot of this which is now out of date because they've changed the interface a bit. So port 3 is the LAN bridge member. Port 4 is WAN, which is correct. Yep. Yep, that goes that way, that goes that way. So in theory, it should be behaving. Let's just check. Edit interface. Advanced settings. Permit art broadcast. Yeah. No, that's all fine. Where's my bridge gone? Close that. Network. How-to articles. Bridge mode. We should be able to sort something, or hop into Discord at some point when I get 5 minutes. Don't even get 5 minutes anymore. Right, bridge interfaces. Where's the advanced section? Bridge over physical, bridge over VLANs, yes. So draw Ethernet frames. Okie dokie, so yeah, that's fine, that's fine. See, this should work. That's what's kind of a bit frustrating. I'm obviously doing something wrong because I've never done this before. So have I got them the wrong way round? Maybe? Let's try that. We'll give that a go. We got to have the way out at the top. But in theory, it shouldn't matter because the whole idea of a bridge is to, well, bridge. Discord is down below in the, well, it should be down below. If not, it's in the links to all my videos. Hop in there and poke me a message and we'll see what we can sort out at some point. Part of way too many Discords now. Right, let's see if that does anything better. Nope, still got no internet. God, that's an old interface. I'm resorting to Google for a bit because in theory this should be working. Problem is that's all fine and dandy. Let's consult Reddit, shall we? Let's go with an any for the time being then, shall we? Any. Yeah, I mean, this is me basically. I've never had to configure a Sophos firewall in bridge mode because we've never had a use case for it. So why not now? It's good fun. We can answer some questions while we're doing it, and we can investigate the fun world of Sophos. At some point, it will just go ping, and everything will start to work. And it will turn out that it was just literally a firewall rule or something like that. It's just working out where and what and how it's doing it. I'm going to rotate this around a bit so I can see the screen on it. I need to spend some more time up here running more cables from down underneath to up on my connection there, because then I'd be able to just plug in and make it work, but I haven't got that at the moment. Just make sure that that doesn't need resetting. Okay, do that. Let's have a think. What have I got that I can use to easily test? What have I got where? Sorry, I'm just looking around for something that I can fire up quickly. That's got a screen on it. Oh, thank you. Here we go. Right, let me get a cable a minute. It's handy having loads of... Oh, Sophos is the same. Any good firewall system, it will be top to bottom order. And obviously your last rule should always be the drop rule. By default, everything should be... Any good firewall will be dropped by default. You can switch certain ones to be allowed by default and then filter, but no, it should be dropped by default. Right. Just wait for that machine to wake itself up a bit. And then I'll get a ping running on there. Right. Now, in theory, if I plug you into, say, there, let's just make sure that the internet connection there is actually working. Which it is, so that's fine. So I do know that works. Right. And now if I unplug you, plug you in there, that should break, which it has. And very interesting. Let's unplug you a minute. No, that's wrong. We don't need to plug you in. Let's unplug you. Let's see what happens. So, in theory, then, if I now look at the log viewer, oh, Teams is just fired up on that machine. But it's going to be on sign in. So I have actually got traffic, but it's just not working. Is that some replies? No, destination not reached, but that's fine. So why am I getting invalid traffic? So source IP, destinations. So do I need just an any in there? Let's put an any. Let's go any. See what we get. There we go. It was a firewall rule. So I need to tweak the firewall rules a bit. So in theory, that should now be showing. Let's have a look. Right. I'm just going to get rid of the other WAN link a minute because we don't need it. No, it has no safe mode config, but it's something that would not surprise me if it comes along at some point. There are certain bits you can do that with, but generally it doesn't. It behaves. You make a change. If you break it, you break it. But that's also why it's quite useful to have a... let's unbind that. It's why it's useful to have a dedicated management interface. The bigger Sophoses actually have that. Let's have a look. Right, so that's a bridge working on a tiny little Sophos actually. Give me 2 seconds. Let me flick over to there because I can. Let me hop into that Dream Machine a second. Let's see. Okay, that's not too bad. That's what I was just trying to see if I go and have a look in here. We'll go have a quick look and see if that put any load on the system. It should have done. It's alright, this is only a little baby Sophos, so it's going to struggle to get any real speed through it, but it's the whole point. It's only a little unit. And you can see you start to get some IPS load through. So that gives us our bridge rule, which is an any rule, effectively. Is there any way I can... Let's just see. Can I filter that down to that? No, because that won't work. So what I need is a... Let's create a new network a minute. Let's just see if this works. Birds just landed on the roof. So let's find out if that breaks it. Does that break it? Let's have a look. No, that looks to be... Is that working? Looks to be working. Let's reset the data count. we set the data count on you. Let's see what rule it's using. Excellent, using the right rule. Now, obviously, that's going to do a certain amount on there. Now, the question would be, so that in theory would be doing packet inspection on an IPS, obviously, on that link. So in theory, if I go over to here, pull up the internet. That's the next bit I've got to work out. I'm just doing some stress testing on it at the moment. So I've got on the machine over there, let's see if I can show you it a bit better. So on the machine over there, you can see I have got open speed test running to one of my servers down here. On a medium length, so that'll do a 10-minute test, so I can leave that running. And it gives us a good idea of what this poor little box is capable of. So if you were using public IPs, the problem you've got is the ranges. Now, if you're... This is where the difference between how this should work, where it needs to be behind the MikroTik router, because effectively what it's going to be looking at is the traffic that's routed with a destination of your, obviously, your server IPs. So you would be, to all intents and purposes, having a bridge where, for example, your destination network, if you wanted it to filter this, you'd have to have it so that it was filtering, so that the destination is obviously your internal range. So it's picking anything up coming in and is inspecting it. But it's also the same if you want to inspect traffic going out. You then have to have it so that your source is the bridge network, is your internal public IP range going with a destination of any. So it is possible to do it. But that's where you'd have it on the inside of your MikroTiks. The question is whether you'd have one device effectively with all the MikroTiks running through it. The problem with that is it generates a single point of failure. And it's how it would deal with the fact that the MikroTiks are passing on a masqueraded IP address as well. So it's whether they're passing the genuine one or they're masking it with an internal range as well. There's a lot of different aspects that need to be considered. This is putting some load on this poor little box. I can tell you that. Let's just have a look at the CPU. I mean, honestly, there's no reason why you couldn't spin up a home box or an evaluation box and test it and play around with it. It just depends on the hardware that you're going to use to run it. I mean, this, as I say, this little box here is only a little atom. So it's maxed out at its throughput is about, we're hovering around 300 as a max throughput. And again, if I have a look, the CPU is sort of jumping around a little bit. For web protection, again, so email protection, it's just a generic spam filter to a certain degree. You point your incoming email to this, and then this in turn points it to, or incoming and outgoing email into here. And this in turn then checks all email in and out, quarantines what it doesn't like the look of. And then you can, where is it? You can then hand off the next bit. Again, it depends on what you're looking at for mail filtering. In all honesty, it's not my first choice. But then we use 365, so that would be my preferred choice, is to use that. You can tweak certain aspects. You can add, obviously, your TLS in there. I don't use it, to be honest. It's one of those things that I don't. It's so rarely used, if ever. I haven't used this in the last couple of years, so I'm very out of touch with it. Don't even know actually how you'd set it up nowadays. The last time I used this was in the SG days, so the old UTM days. I mean, by the looks of it, basically you can say the domain, accept it. You can turn on your spam protection, things like that. Web again, web server protection is for obviously primarily a web application filter. So you would create your web server in here. Whether it's basically, if you're just dealing, it's HTTP, HTTPS. So you put HTTP. You can, let's wait for it to fire up. You've got some predefined ones in there. You can put basically a degree of scanning in place. You can specify TLS versions and enforce that. So obviously the client connects to the firewall connects onto the server, and therefore the client is never directly connected to the server. Very similar to what Cloudflare does. Now you can obviously specify, there are certain things that this will break, however, if you've got a lot of authentication. And then in the firewall rules, there is an option in here. So when you add a firewall rule, go new firewall rule, the action you're looking for is protect with web server protection. And you can obviously say, I only want to listen to www.mydomain.com on the port, so things like that. You can redirect HTTP to HTTPS, specify the certificate, specify the web server, who can access it, and then you go and you would add in a specific, so you create a specific protection. You add intrusion prevention, so WAN to LAN. Again, there's certain aspects, or depending on what you want it to do. Generally, it's just looking for things like IPS. It will know a certain, based on its patterns, what it's looking for. There's obviously certain times where you may need an exception. So from a certain thing, or to a certain source, or to a certain path, it may be that it's triggering certain things that you're accepting of because it's a false positive. So the web server protection, it's not bad. We do run it on a few sites. Doing all right still. But again, that requires the firewall to have the external IP. That will not work in bridge mode. So that's one of the things. It all depends on where you are placing this in the order, which again is where you may require quite a few interfaces to do different things with this. But at the same time, it does allow you to keep an eye on what's going on. Now, Pt14, on the other hand, might be a better solution for you for this, because obviously it's free, or OpenSense, and I'm pretty sure you can bridge networks in that if needs be. But again, you're going to need some way of manage, so you will need a management network. And you've got a choice. You either have community driven support on it, or you pay Netgate for actual support. Welcome. We're playing with bridge mode in Sophos, Jason. I'm playing with a 106 that I've just loaded home on, well, software edition on, and we're breaking and torture testing the whole thing, which it's not too happy about. Well, this is my little XG 106 that I was. It's not too bad. It's manageable. The interface is a bit chuggy at times, but then we're actually at the moment we've got my machine over there connected to a Dream Machine SE, which the WAN port of the Dream Machine SE is running through a bridge on. In fact, let me do that. That's easier, right? So we've got one of my spare machines over there running to the Dream Machine SE, which is there, going into the Dream Machine SE, coming out of the Dream Machine SE, going into here, which we have a bridge between the two ports set up in here, which then in turn goes into another switch, which goes through another Sophos XG, which then goes through another switch, which goes down to my Dream. Yeah, you don't want to know, but the basics of it are we have bridge mode working on a 106 XG. Because I've never set a bridge mode up. I've never done a bridge. I've never needed to do a bridge, so why not? We're also testing something for Jack just to try and work out if, where, when, what, and how would be best for him, in terms of if he wants to put the firewall in the chain, and what firewall, maybe Sophos, maybe OpenSense, maybe Pt14. If you want OpenSense advice, give Jason a poke, because he's playing with a lot of the OpenSense stuff at the moment. So yeah, go find Jason's lab if you're not already, and he's been playing with that. It's generally these sort of things, they do work. Doesn't really matter what firewall you go with. There is always usually a way to do it. It just depends on the features that are available. But yeah, I was going to fire up one of the bigger boys in a minute. Just to see. I might have to put some noise on in a minute because it's getting warm up here. Right, how are we doing? Could well be. Don't know, I've not hopped in. Basically, he wants to be able to put a semi-sensible firewall in front of some public IPs, but that are going. I'm still trying to work out exactly what where you've got multiple routers going off to multiple other routers, and it's sort of hosting is a bit of a weird one. It's all down to a few different aspects. Well, someone has. This is what I was sat there thinking. I'm sure someone was asking about bridge mode the other day. But hence why it was quite nice to actually have a look at it. I think we found the upper limit of what an XG106 can do sensibly. This is just in bridge mode without leveraging any of the more advanced features. It does about 300 meg. That's just with basic firewalling, and let's have a look. Yeah, I need. Well, I've drank my bubble tea. These appeared over in where was this? This was in the local shop. It's all right. It's just like cold tea, though. It's got a 10 cents refund on it. It cost me a lot to go and get that refund, but I could go and get 10 cents. I'll go to sleep. I mean, the simplest answer is you could try it. You could try it, you could put it in the way, and in theory it should work. The only thing I would suggest is obviously you have a dedicated out-of-bounds management IP on the device. Same as what we've done here. So we've got the bridge set up, and that's working. And effectively it's an any, and it's just inspecting traffic that's going backwards and forwards through it. So you could do an any. You could sort of narrow the rules down to be from any to your subset of IPs, and then connect it through. And you could do what we've done here. So we've got port 1. This is effectively, I mean, I can actually go through here and we can go, right, so we can call port 1. We can call this management. Like so. Oof. That made, hold on. That made the CPU think. We've just cut in half our internet speed from that box on the upload. So let's get you out of the way a minute. La, 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 la. I think the problem is what I need to do at some point, and we have been thinking about this. I could do with getting myself a leased line here. Yes. Yes, but then you would you could do it. You could do that. It would depend on, you could block it for all, but then you would have to have a potential to add an allow rule above it, which isn't a problem. Or you could actually, depending on what ports you need available. Oh yeah, this is exactly what I said earlier. Hence me having this thing sat here. Out rather than in its slotted place. you're going to want a good size firewall to do this. And yes, you're going to, for business, you're going to want to be licensed for it. There we go. So if I switch back to here, so yeah, and again, so we've got this set up. We've got the management LAN, just the default IP, and then we've got a bridged pair, which is effectively the Sophos is in transparent mode. So we've got the inside of the network on port 3, we've got the outside of the network on port 4. It's the thing is like, if I go now, if you want to do any form of packet inspection, it's going to put load on it. Good. So you should be. I've been a bit lazy. Your OpenSense video should have picked you up some. Have you cracked 1,000 yet? And are you monetized yet? Let's just see. So if I turn off, I'm going to turn off all the filtering a minute. And just leave logging on. So go back over here and we restart this. Now this is where the hardware plays an important role. So I've turned off all the filtering, and you can't really see that, but over on that machine over there, we've gone from struggling to hit 300 meg throughput to we're now at 700. And that's the different. That's where you need beefy hardware if you're processing and inspecting a lot of traffic. So if you want a throughput rate of a gigabit, which is what technically you need, you're going to need heavy duty hardware. You're going to need something that can process at that rate. So you're going to be up in the 300s, the 400 range to get that throughput. I mean, that unit is this poor unit here. Well, we can, in theory. So let's have a look. See if that's set. We'll let that settle a minute and see what it averages. Because this is often the factor that is forgotten about with any form of these devices, and it's something that I think gets glossed over far too often. Is actually, especially now with the level and complexity of attacks on systems. If you are not scanning everything in and out of your system, and it doesn't matter if you're scanning on the endpoint, if you're not scanning everything in and out, there was another one the other day that was, I think, there was one the other day with printer firmware, and there's been some other ones recently where, like certain hardware devices again are getting compromised, and because people aren't scanning SSL going out of their property, out of the business, they're missing it. They're just allowing certain things to break free, and that's what I really like the Sophos is for, because all I've got to do is set a policy and it's done. How are we doing? We're getting there. We should be hovering around 500. Well, exactly that. 3CX. I mean, that should be picked up by an endpoint because it was the Windows app. Yeah, three. This is one thing that you often and it's unfortunately it's often proponents of things like pfSense. Oh, pfSense is great because it's a simple firewall, same with OpenSense. But if you're not filtering all your web traffic as well using the edge, you're missing half the threats. I think you've been touching on that, Jason, with OpenSense and getting that plugged in to do proper web filtering. And that's one of the problems that people seem to think, oh, I've got pfSense, I've got PF blocker, I'm fine. That was it. DNS over HTTPS. The quick and easy way to get around any web blocker. I don't know where it is on Edge. Let's have a look. There's me. See, I've been sensible because this is my machine. Hi, Cody. Same to you. I hope you have a great Sunday and you're not doing any working today. We're playing Sophos today, so you don't like Sophos. But yeah, this, if you've got machines that you're not fully in control of. Yeah, well, that was it. Zen Armor. That's the one. If you are not able to control certain things like this, being able to turn off web browsers using DNS over HTTPS, you miss. You're missing out. Let's put it that way. I think you'd like it. I think you would actually get on really well with Sophos. And the fact that it's free as well. If you've got a small box, go and get the Home Edition, go and load it and go and play with it. Because it's like having almost like, not quite the ease of Unify, but it's very easy to use because everything's there. You just have to turn it on. So you've got the easishness of Ubiquity's Unify stuff with the enterprise stuff that you actually really want on a network, but you don't have to turn everything on, but it's beneficial if you do. And it makes, once you've used this, you then go back to pfSense and think, my God, this is clunky. And this is like, everything has to be bolted in and it's very, very manual. This has everything that you need for 99% of network filtering on a business network, even on an enterprise, up to an enterprise level network. And that's where it's nice. No, it doesn't have all the, you can bolt this and this and this and this and this and this into it. It doesn't have all that feature set, but that's not what it's designed for. This is just so easy. I mean, this is a baby one. This is tiny. This one. This one's this one. But it does make things so much easier to use. And especially with the amount of threats and things like that are coming out. We've got these working so well with, we've got systems that are all Ubiquity, apart from the firewall, which is Sophos. So yeah, if you get a chance, a little bit of time, get it loaded up. Any questions, just bang them over and we'll get you sorted. How are we doing? 5? Yeah, that's fine. Probably can do a gig, I expect, that little thing, unfiltered. What's the CPU load? That should have plummeted by now. Just see what's going on. Are we on the upload or on the download? No, still on the download. Right, what do I want? I want that USB pen. Oh, something else. It is, because it's only again, even though this has got features off, this one's a baby. This one's a tiny little one, but yeah, it just takes time to do stuff. Have I got? What we'll do, I'm just waiting for that to decide what it's going to be on its full 10-minute load. It's a weird one. The last time I actually did speed test work with a Sophos XG and went through and did a thorough testing on it, the more you turn on up to a certain point, once you've got everything on, is when the system works best, because it knows what it can offload to where. So it's offloading and making full use of multi-core processors. The well, no, you want the 450s and the 320 and the 330s. They're quite nice. Interestingly, now I don't know if it will zoom in enough to see it. That machine is currently uploading now at a gig, so it's pushing a gig through, which is like basically line speed, because there's no inspection going on. So, right, let's shut down. Yes. I can't remember what state my 135 is in. So let's find out, shall we? Let's do the same test, just as a for the minute. You can go in there, and we'll let you boot up a second. And I have a suspicion I need to be in 8. That shit. No, it's not. Yeah, that was one thing I was going to do quickly while we wait for this one to fire up. So let's just do the simplest one to search on is just Sophos Firewall. Now, to put this in perspective, I pay, if I want to find a firewall, I expect to pay for a 100 series less than £100. For a 200 or a 300 series, £100 to £150 max. For a 400 series, up to £200. I haven't got hold of any 500 series yet, so we'll have a quick look and show you. And also, you need to be aware of what you don't want to be buying. So, if you're going to be using this, you either want something that you can get hold of bits of easily, or something that's fairly new. And there's the way of identifying the difference between the two of them as well. So a lot of what's going to be appearing is going to be Rev 1 stuff, which is fine. It's just getting a bit long in the tooth for what it is. So this one, for example, SG230 Rev 1. And the easy way to tell the difference between a Rev 1 and a Rev 2 is the Rev 1s have the LCD on the right, the Rev 2s have it on the left. That is too much money for a Rev 1. That's expensive. Let's see if there's another Rev 1. I mean, it's ones like this that do make me chuckle. Someone's trying to sell a new inbox SG430. Well, the SG series, so that's been sat around. It's a Rev 2, so technically, if they'd actually taken pictures out of the box, you'd be able to see it. As hardware goes, that's not bad, but it's not worth that. And if you haven't, unless you've got the actual license for it, it's only worth what the hardware's worth, which is like for an unused 430, maybe Rev 2, £200, something like that. There you go. There's a Rev 2, and as you can see, that's an XG Rev 2, and it's got the blue LCD and everything's at the other end, and it's got the additional SFP ports on it. They aren't bad choices. You can expand them out with a flex port, a flex module. But again, they will do about a gig throughput max. They're not designed for doing 10 gig, but they can just about do multiple gigs through them, but not massively. And again, obviously if you're using home, the limitation is down to the fact that it limits the cores and the memory. And no, it's not worth that. It's worth maybe £150 tops because it's a Rev 2. There's an SG Rev 1. It gets a little bit confusing with the small 100 series units because they jump through the revs quite quickly, and then they change the model numbers. So there's a 135. That's an SG 135 Rev 2. I've got an XG 135 Rev 3. Now they're similar, but again, that is I'm amazed they've sold that many, because I'm going to say, offer price on that, I wouldn't be offering more than £90 on that. It's being what it is. It's an older generation. It's going to be an older Atom. I don't know if they are susceptible to the Atom bug as well, so they may be ticking time bombs to a certain degree. And in production, they are dropping out of support now, slowly but surely. XG85s, ignore. They are pointless. $9.99 is about the value for that. There's some 135 Rev 2s. Again, then again, £450. They're not worth that. Again, they will have come off of a site. There's nothing particularly amazing about them. They are just older Atom units. At least the 135 Rev 3s, you get an SFP port on them, so they become a bit more usable. And again, there's lots of Rev 2s appearing. There's lots of Rev 2s appearing because they are now being pulled off site. Red 50s, no point anymore. They're now approaching end of life. In fact, I've got the retirement date for all the things now. So you can see the access point, Reds. That's the actual end of life for everything. Where's the XGs? So anything SG, these are all end of life 2026. and the little baby XGs. The XG85 has already gone end of life. The 86 is in 2 years' time. The 105 is end of life. 115 has got a bit more life left in it, a couple more years. And the XGSs, yeah, they're all fine. If it says Sophos UTM, avoid it. Inside that is a Core 2 Duo. If that, completely the wrong generation. You don't want anything to do with those. They are way too old now. So anything UTM. Where else have we got? So again, you see ones like this where it's just the appliance only. They show you this pretty picture with all these flex modules in them. If they had those flex modules in them, that flex module there alone is worth its weight in gold because it's a PoE module. But at the same time, chances are they probably don't include that. It's probably a bog standard unit. And again, if you've got no license, if you do not have the original license schedule from Sophos, then it's just a piece of hardware. Sophos will not reassign it to you if you do not have the original license schedule. You cannot get it transferred because they need to know the original customer, and they need written letters from the original customer to transfer the hardware license to you. If you don't have that, all it is a base license, and that's it. You can't do anything more with it other than load the software onto it or load something else onto it. And it's why, again, they are genuinely not worth what people think. People think, oh, it's a new appliance in box. Nope, not worth it. That is maybe, was it a Rev 2? So again, new. If it's a new Rev 2, that's worth maybe 250 tops. I picked one up for less than that. It's the way I look. It's the way I look at things. Is you just have to be a bit patient. They do appear. It's like you see people wanting XG210. That's a Rev 2, but they want £350 for it when it's at most £150 device. Web appliance, that needs scrapping. SG310, again, that's a Rev 1. That's a £100 device tops. That's normally what I pay for my Rev 1 300 series if I want one. I've got plenty of them, so I don't. Web security, again, that's a scrap device. Yeah, yes, you can. People do. I don't know why. I do laugh at it when they put PF Sense and then claim somehow that it's better. It's one of the reasons why I have so many Sophoses, is because once I've got my second rack built, I will do here's a Sophos on an XG450. Here's PF Sense on an XG450. Here's the difference in performance, and here's how easy they are to set up. Hi, Mike. What did you? Yeah, a bit overpaid on that one, unfortunately, but should be good. Yeah, the flex modules. Have I got? Have I? Where are my flex modules? I've got a flex module in this unit here. This has got a 2-port unit out of a checkpoint, but keep an eye on eBay on the continent, because that's where I got mine from. I picked up 2 of them for 40 quid each, and they're just dual port 10 gig modules. But you need to be searching by, you need to search for the flex modules. You need to search for them by their checkpoint names, which is CPAC, CPAC. And then you need to search for them by their Caswell ID as well. That's how I found these. Because they were on under their Caswell ID, which I'll have a look at in a minute. There's an XG210. That looks like Rev 2. That, again, could be a bit cheaper. Sometimes what you will find with these, and it is quite amusing, is some of these are RMA swap outs that Sophos have never collected, because Sophos don't collect the RMA swap outs. This this one here, put my hand over the asset tag on it for the minute. Let's go switch back. Go there. So this unit here was in production as an SG. I upgraded this to the XG software. This was in production for 8 years and only recently failed, as in the hard disk inside started to basically slow down. But an 8-year-old appliance that still had support, and Sophos RMA'd it. Literally, we had an RMA swap out there in 2 days. Restored the backup. Yeah, unfortunately they do. I haven't found, the problem is I haven't found a way to limit what they're pulling. They are not the most power efficient, sadly. My 450 and the Switch and the 135 at the moment is pulling 120 watts. It gets worse when it gets hot. Probably a 330. I mean, there. That's a 310 Rev 2. That would probably be more than enough in terms of throughput. They don't come up that often. This again was an RMA swap out, and I fixed the fault with it. The nice thing about the 200, the nice thing about 200 and 300 is you can use the flex modules. So the Rev 2 300 series has got SFP plus ports, and if you needed more, you can get a flex module and expand out, or if you do need more physical ports, you can just flex module them in. But these have got plenty of ports on them. So yeah, you've got 2 SFP pluses, 2 SFP, and 8 ports as well. So these are quite useful. Yeah, the sweet spot for home, if I had... Yeah, the sweet spot is the 135, 136s. These units. These are perfect for home. Let's just stick you there a minute. Have I got... No, I haven't. Sadly, it's plugged. I think this is using about 15 watts, if that. I was just going to get it fired up quickly. Let's just see if there's anything. Hold on. Doop. At some point, when one comes along at the right price, I am going to get hold of something like a 500 series. This is a bit too old. That's a Rev 1, I think. Or a Rev 1? Yeah, I think that's a Rev 1 SG550. There's 2U appliance. And they had slightly different expansion cards in them. The later ones, the XG550s, have normal flex ports in them. I can tell you actually, because it's running off that. So we're using 120 watts through there at the moment. Where's my power button gone? There. Let me just shut that down. Let me just see what it drops a minute. So my 135 on idle. Assuming it's going to shut down. Yeah, 15 watts on idle. And yeah, so yeah, the 550s are huge. The biggest units that they currently do are similar in size. They are the XGS. These have only just been launched. Is the is these units. Don't know what the so if we have a quick look. So their biggest unit is the XGS 8500 now, which is a 2U unit. But it's got so much expandability. I mean, that's like crazy amount. You've got the large expansion ports on it. You can put 40, I think, 100 gig QSFP ports in it. It'd be lovely and fun to have. Somewhere I did see. Hold on, I'm going to have to flick off there a second because I've got to go hunting through the. I go hunting through my partner side of things. Because there is a bit that they do actually have listed, their power management. That is the thing. You can swap. There are certain CPUs that it supports. I can't. It all depends on if it was available. I mean, in theory, it should support most of them. 2100. No, no. No, if you want an 8500, they are about 20 grand and up. They've only just launched. Let me just see if I can find the there is a thing on somewhere tucked away. That we had. Yeah, that's an enterprise grade firewall, the 8500. They are huge and powerful beasts, but they are obviously designed for many, many gigabits of throughput. Just flip. Sorry, I'm just trying to find. No. I want. Where are we? Asset library. Let's have a look in the library, shall we? And just find the power usage on. Because. Tech. Firewall. Let's have a quick look. See if it's got it listed. I know sometimes they do list the power usage. So if you could get an XGS 136 to work with home, that's something I've got to look into. The 136 XGS 136 uses, so that's quite a just. Is that that uses 30 watts idle now? The XGS 87 uses 20 watts. So let's see if I can find the XG range a minute. XG technical specs. Find me an XG technical specs. No. The XGS series are AMD based. The XG, that's why I'm just having a quick look. The XG series are Intel based. Yes, it's all. I found the manufacturer for them. I missed it. Sizing, no, 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 no. No, 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 no. You. Let's have a quick look. This I think I can show you. Yeah, that's fine. Right. We just flick through some screens quickly. So, because there's the XG. That's a difference of that's a 106. That's a one. No, sorry, 106. It's a 135. Yeah, that's that's a 200 series. That's a 400 series. That's a 500 series. So yeah. See what we've got. You can see some of the rough. We got rough throughputs all the way up to the XG750. That would be the one I'd like to be able to find as an XG750 or a 650, something crazy like that, because that's rated. The XG750 is rated for 100,000 megabits, so that's 100 gigabit. Is that 100 gigabit throughput? Yeah. And it's rated for 20 gigabit basically throughput through the next gen firewall. It's only rated for less than that through the threat protection. That in so it's 10,000 megabit per second, which is 10 gig. So you can see there. Let's have a look. We've got power usage anywhere. So 135. That's the one you want. The 135W, and it's got we've got power rating here. So we've got throughputs. Threat protection throughput, I think, is the antivirus if it has to do any scanning. SSL. We got power supply. Well, the maximum it can draw is 36 watts. So at most, the 135 is going to be drawing 36 watts, which is kind of what the 200 series idle's at. Oh, there we go. Power consumption. 18 watts at idle, 20 watts at full load. So yes, that is kind of the peak. Yeah, I mean, when you're up that high, you're either looking. If you're looking at something with that level of routing, you're splitting out your appliances at that point. You're having a dedicated routing appliance, a dedicated threat manage appliance. You're dedicating services to a box. You wouldn't consolidate it all as much onto one. You'd have a big heavy router. You'd have a big heavy firewall. Again, threat management and all that stuff. So let's see. You should be using So a XG210. XG210 should be using 19 watts roughly. A 230, 21 watts at idle, 41 watts at full load. Now, obviously, again, that's going to be lab conditions. They don't tell you anymore what CPUs they put in them, but you can get a rough guesstimate again by hopping onto Caswell's site and finding the rough comparison. Let's have a quick look. So let's go Caswell. One new network appliance. So that one there, the 2080, looks familiar to some to a certain degree. So yeah, you could put whatever you put an i7 into your 200 series, I expect. Yeah, I think that's the whole. It's like in lab conditions with it in like an air conditioned room at like 16 degrees, so it doesn't have to cool. It doesn't have to run the fans anywhere above idle. Just having a quick look, see what other. Because you can see they just there's certain things they throw in xeon atoms in certain of those chassis. Um, yeah, the 30. Oh, no, the 2080 would be the 2070. I bet that is more. Yeah, sort of. Again, it's still very much it's still very much a real world versus. It's like car MPGs. It's real world versus actually in the real world. It doesn't do that. TDP should be total, but even certain processes still go over that. That's the one. So Skylake, Kaby Lake processors. That there is basically the XG 210 or 200 series. Yeah, yeah. The 2070 is that, but it's a good way of working out what CPUs you can put in it. So in theory you could put a Kaby Lake i7 in there or a Kaby Lake i3 and drop the power usage a bit by putting a low power CPU in there, because it will use less power on idle anyway. Yeah, Caswell are the OEM. Caswell manufacture hardware that you can then load upon on top of. Caswell are used by, or they were used by Sophos. I don't think they might not be anymore to a certain degree, but they're used by Checkpoint, or were used by Checkpoint, and they were used by Smoothwall as well. So just flick back to eBay. I don't think there's anything really. So there's another SG, and again that's an older one. Yeah, SG 550 because it's got the older style ports on it. And we've gone off to Austria now and Australia. Right. Yeah. As well. So there are a lot in here, so you can see there's a Caswell. There's a baby one. And it's an old. A lot of these are the older ones as well, but you can sort of see they are very, very similar in their appearance. There's a Smoothwall, which is, you can see it actually advertised it as a car 3030. Talari Networks obviously use them as well as another Smoothwall. They say a lot of the time it's they Caswell supply the hardware, and then obviously they're customized by people on top. Sophos seem to customize their a lot more, or request that they're customized a lot more. I haven't seen any really newer. Say Caswell, Portwell seem to be an American, I think, importer for them and customize them a bit. Insight interface module. No idea what that's for. For something to do with a cat. I mean, there's things like that. So there's a 10 gig module if you were using. So that's a different style module, I think. Yes. Yes, yeah, you can use any hardware. You can run Sophos XG hardware on any software on any x86 PC, same as you can do a pfSense and an OpenSense. They're a weird little thing, but there you go. If you needed if you were going fiber and you didn't mind not having it screwed in, that would actually work. The other one you can find is, if I spell it correctly, is Checkpoint. And again, these are just Caswell boxes rebadged. That one there is basically the same as a first generation, so a Rev 1 200 or 300 series. I don't know. They have the UEFI question's been put to them a couple of times, and they've never come back with an answer. But then I've not checked. I don't know what the XGSs are, and the problem is the only ones I've got are customer ones, so I can't go ripping them apart, because I can't risk the warranty. So until I get an XGS actually fail, that I then have to go and swap. Yeah, it's a bit difficult. Or I can get, unless I can find one on eBay at the right price. The problem is they're still so new that people are demanding stupid money when they pop up, even when they've got no license. I had that argument with someone on here, saying that, oh yeah, they've got a license because they got the piece of paper. I said, have you got the actual ability to the original ownership license? And they're like, no. I said, well, it's not worth more than £100 then. And they took objection to me actually stating that what they had was not worth the money. They wanted like £700-800 for a 136 that had no license, and I said, well, it's not worth any money without the license. So there's a 4-port card. That's actually not that bad, especially if it comes with the modules. That's a Checkpoint card, but that would work. There you go. There's another one. Where's that from? That's from America. Yeah. That's the upgrade modules that fit straight into any of the chassis. No, what it is, so Sophos put an announcement out that basically if you've got, so if some dealers, what they would do is they would purchase a model with a license schedule and not activate it. So they'd be sat on, say, an XG310 that they'd purchased before the price went up, and they'd sit on it, and then when they needed it for a job, they'd then activate the license. And so if they bought a 3-year license and hardware, they'd activate it and off it would go. But what Sophos decided was actually, you know what? No, when you buy the license now, it activates when the order has gone through. So if you buy a 3-year license, it activates there and then. What they've also done is, because, I mean, Sophos have owned the appliances. They've had the XG appliances out for 5 years. There's still people out there running CyberRoam appliances, which is the company that it used to be. And they've basically said, look, after this date as well, those appliances are now end of life, will not receive, are now need to be retired. If you're supporting them, we're not going to support anything to do with them anymore. They're done. They will be end of life, end of service, and the license on them will be ceased, and they will be turned basically into switches. That's all they will be. So any of the really old CyberRoam appliances, and you're looking at appliances that are now they're coming up for at least 8 years old, 7 years old, something like that. So they've just said, look, we're not going to support them. The licenses now, CyberRoam haven't been around for that long. They are what they are. Do that. They kind of hinted that it would also impact stuff like the XG105s and the end of life firewalls that have been end of life for like a year already with the XG range. But what they've said is, no, actually, what will happen is they will just revert. Any XG series will just revert to its base license, and that's it. So you won't be able to do any. If you've got them out on site on their base license, they'll still carry on working. What people thought they'd said is that those devices also would be turned into dumb switches, and it wasn't that. So that's basically what they've done. They've adjusted their licensing schedules and their licensing terms that basically mean when you buy a Sophos license now, it's active from when you purchase it. We tend to license on the month by month. We look after a lot of our firewalls on the Flex package because we have it where we look after sites that might shut down in the middle, halfway through a year. Which means that if you've got a 3-year license schedule and the site's only been alive for a year and a half, you've paid for 3 years and you're only going to get a year and a half out of them. And then if you fire it up again 6 months later to another site, you've only got a year left. It doesn't pause the license. So it works better for our clients. We do it monthly. Just trying to see if there's any other modules that might suit what you need. See if there's anything sensibly priced. Yeah, there's the C packs. There's a 2-port one. I mean, I purchased those for about 40 quid. Yeah, I mean, the problem is when it's a security appliance, I mean, and they haven't been selling any licensing for it for like years. They're just like, it's, I mean, you can understand it. It's business. They're sat there saying, look, if you're still supporting this, you should have moved them on to either something else or onto Sophos XG. If you haven't moved them onto Sophos XG, it's time to move them onto Sophos XG. That's their basic argument. Yeah, that was the funny one. It was like they that was almost like a story out of nothing when that popped up. That was like, well, it was like if you're running a XG105 or an XG85, which, hold on, I think. So there's an XG105. This product has been end of sale and end of life for a year, and it was only supported up to XG version 18. Version 17.5. So when they end of life, when they end of life XG 17.5, they end of life this product. Now, yes, there's companies out there that have been sold that, and they think that's all they need, and that's it. What Sophos have said is, no, if you're running that now, done. Base license only, that's all you get. And that's basically what they've been saying, because they know that the software that this supports is now insecure. But people saw that and went, Sophos have got a security issue that impacts their services. And it's like, yeah, but it impacts devices that have been end of life for over a year, and software that fits that is that old as well. They are trying to obviously push people into buying new hardware appliances, which is correct. But at the same time, they also have been maintaining older hardware and older software because it was still under support. Now, give me 2 seconds. Let me see if I can pull up the... let me see if I can find the actual announcement, because that was one of the weird things. It's like Sophos appeared, and then they actually, it was like on the Reds. You went and delved into it, and they're like, there's a massive security issue with thousands of Sophos firewalls, and then you look, and it's like, well, actually, no. There's a massive security issue with people who have unticked a box that is default, the actual the box that gives you your one of these. You or is it you? Yeah, if you untick the auto hotfix box, then surprise, you are vulnerable to patches that are fixed in hotfixes. Did I re-IP this? Might well have done. Let's just do a... and that they made a story out of that. It's not like a Fortinet story where they hard code credentials into services and things like that. No, there was a bug that Sophos patched instantly and auto patched on most hardware, apart from the people that decided they knew better, unticked the auto hotfix, and then they're like, well, there's a few thousand of these still vulnerable because people haven't patched them, or they're using out of date software. It's kind of like all the Cisco routers that are out there that haven't been patched for 10 years because nobody wants to pay for the maintenance on them, and they're riddled full of security holes. That one? You live? Let's find out. I can never remember which port is live by default on these things. They keep moving it around. Let's just quickly reload it. Smoothwall is targeted at education. It has a very specific target vertical, which is education and schools. And as far as I'm aware, they do it quite well. I've never come across one because we don't do education and schools over here. It's too much red tape for our business to deal with at the moment. If we grow and we get to that point, we might well come across them. That's the 10 port. That's the 4 port 10 gig one. Has it just Mike, I think it's just decided that you were spamming. Oh no, you retracted it. Oh, did you paste that into the wrong? I think you might have pasted that into the wrong window. I don't know what's gone on with Untangle, because obviously since Arista took them over, they seem to have they seem to be suffering sort of like they just seem to have vanished. It's it is that whole thing of what do you do, because it used to be obviously it's like, I can get a 30-day free trial of next generation firewall at home, or I could use Sophos, which is free. The problem, my experience of Untangled was very, very small, and I know they had a very, very loyal following, and and I did come across the odd Untangled firewall occasionally. That's the problem. This is the thing. Arista purchased them, um, and they're yeah, Arista are like big, and they've purchased a SMB SME firewall that kind of had its target base was small business and home, and Arista is definitely not small business and home. It's like that. It's almost like someone from Arista went, "What haven't we got? Well, we haven't got a next gen firewall. I know. Let's buy one. Who can we buy? Oh, I like Untangled. They're a next gen firewall, and they've gone and gone. We'll just buy the business." That's the issue. It's like Sophos Home will do 99% of what most, probably 99.9% of most home firewall requirements. If you need something really specific, then you may have to look down pfSense OpenSense. So I'm going for a blind reload on this 135. It is the one nice thing on the hardware key is you just stick it in and wait for it to play pretty tunes. The software version, you do have to press Y and enter. We've got a client that yeah, we got a client that it's a network that I've known for, as I say, 20 years. They got bought out a few years ago, and the parent company have kind of forgotten them. It's where I've been I've done a few little bits. It's where I was did my little Starlink review. It's them. And their parent company has been faffing around. We've been waiting for Fortinets to replace the Sophoses. That hasn't happened. We spoke to one of the guys. I was actually involved in a meeting with one of the guys, and we were promised that we'd be getting new switching, and they were going to be sending Aristas. I thought, brilliant, I get to play with some Aristas to sort that out. And then it's like, then the IT department there got involved, and then no, back to Cisco's, and it's like, so got to manage, and then you got to manage all the Cisco's individually or by stack, and it's just like, you know what, that doesn't give anything over and above what the Netgears have got. They've got Netgear stacks that have been in there There's one firmware update behind which just changes an SNMP issue, which is turned off anyway. It's so frustrating. I've dealt with it before with IT departments like that. But what are we doing? Reloading. Yeah, it's. I was hoping to have got to play with because they've got a load of Arista switching, but it's now been allocated for someone else because the IT department want to use it for the shiny. Micro Edge next gen firewall. Have they got TLS 1.3 scanning? Let's have a look. Now, don't those appliances look familiar? Doesn't that look very, very familiar? It's almost like it's almost like it could be one of these. It's we've got two USBs, we've got a COM port, got 4 buttons, got the panel, we've got the 4 SFP and SFP plus ports. Getting on, we've got dancing lights yet? No. Yeah, again, it's another Caswell. Yeah. So again, why not do like Sophos do? Why not do they're a big enough company, why not do a free, completely free home version that obviously has just the proviso, obviously not for use in a business, in a commercial environment. I mean, it's that sort of silliness. Limit it down to maybe like Sophos do by CPU and memory count, or by throughput maybe. One of the last times I did actually see Untangle was a very long time ago, and it was just running on an old desktop PC, and that was the thing. It wasn't running on a dedicated appliance. But that's the point. It's not the full product. That's what it should be. It should be, here's the full product. Use it in your lab. Use it for home. Not pay us 150 quid. I think I just saw that actually. Appliances. Yeah, it's Q8 now. Q8W. There you go. W as a. Oh, I've still got it. I'm not, because what Ubiquiti is doing is they're hold on 2 seconds, let me find it. What Ubiquiti and Unify are doing, or what Ubiquiti is doing with Unify, is they are trying to be able to be easily configured, but also with some advanced feature. Yeah, so it's real world currency versus some silly rest of the world currency. Bright green. Obviously, they haven't rebranded that one yet. Software packages. Buy now. Don't want it complete. I just want firewall software. So it's... Oh, and they still license it by device. Oh, that's bad. So starting at $50, yeah, let's just have a look. So Home Protect Plus. But I mean that's yeah. I mean, it's near 1-to-1 parity-ish at the moment, I think. Oh, unless... No, the dollar's tumbled, hasn't it? But even then, it's... So if we have a look... Have they got a... Yeah, but no, is it... So the licensing, is it per device connected? So is it licensed for, say, you can have 25 devices on this network, and it will... That's it. Because that's like, well, that's a Cisco / a Sonic fail sort of licensing schematic. I'm intrigued. So what level of... So we've got the filters, yeah, fine. Web cache, connect. Home is 150 devices. No, Sonic will used to do it on their VPNs. I don't know if they've changed. Again, I haven't dealt with Sonic Wall for a long time. That always used to make me laugh. Is anyone licensing? It's like, oh yes, you're licensed for 5 VPN users. It's like, pardon? I'll just bypass you and stuff you into a firewall server then. That's what I wanted, SSL inspector. Come on then. So what level of SSL does it, the TLS does it support? Doesn't say. They're so generous. They gift you 2 SSL. Don't have that problem with Sophos. Unlimited, as much as the unit will support. that's the silliness. That's what I don't get. It's like, oh yes, you're licensed for 2 users, and it's just a way of them rinsing more money out of their clients. That's all it's doing. It's nothing more than that. Something I have discovered might be useful for you, Jason. Obviously normally you've got to swap the SSD over in a XG device. The SSD that was originally in my 135 is now in my 106, which is over there, and is working. So you can actually take you can take the SSD out of one firewall, put it in another one, and it behaves. It still comes up with the error message saying this is a Sophos hardware device, but you can just go yes and it will deploy. subscription, I don't mind. Subscription is easy, but it shouldn't be. You subscribe. You should be able to use the full capability of the hardware you subscribe to. So, if you have a device that can support 100 VPN connections, you shouldn't have to pay for those VPN connections on top of paying for a subscription for the device. Should be included. It's where things like Cisco and that used to really screw up. It's like, oh yes, you're licensed for 5 VPN users, and you've got 20 users that all need to work remotely. And then obviously like COVID hit, and that caused people to realise, well, that's stupid, because we've now got 200 users that need VPN, and that's going to cost us 20 grand a month with the current licensing versus changing the hardware. I've had one or two that even when you clean the hard disk doing that way, it still won't load. It still detects a physical hard disk. It's weird. I mean, the strangest part is obviously the 450s and that have got a software RAID in them, so it doesn't matter. You can still use the hard disks. Rebooted yet? That's... Now I've got to play Guess the Net Report, I think. Right, is it you? Nope, is it you? Found it. Right, let's quickly blitz through this. And we'll do exactly the same config on this one. Okay, port 2. So, you? Possibly. Yep, there we go. Guess the right port. Wait for it to come online. I think I'm probably at about quad nat at this point. There we go. XG135. Don't register now. So, oh, because what? It doesn't cause this system any problems. So currently the pause with a bit. Right, that's fine. That's all fine. Continue. Super quad nat. You could market that as something, and people would say, "Oh yes, is this equipped with super quad nat?" None. Yeah. None. Need to worry about that. Finish. That would be it's one of those things. It's like now equipped with super quad nat. Gonna have to wind this up in a minute anyway. Just answering some fun. Yeah. It's broken. There we go. Right. Well, that was a lot quicker. the poor 106 took forever to do that. No, thank you. Right, okay. Let's just quickly set up the same on here because I would be interested to know what the difference is. Skip that for now. No thanks. Don't need that at the moment. Okay, so let's flick on intrusion prevention. That's still going to be doing pattern updates. As you can see, Jack, this just this unit is noticeably snappier on its interface. It's the difference between the 106 is a dual core. This is a quad core, I believe. Wait for that to all catch up. So let's add a bridge. Port 3, port 4, WAN, LAN, IP, DHCP that. We can give this one the name test bridge as well. BR0. And save. Oh, I need gateway name. Bridge. Gateway. Do. Save. Add bridge. It's the bridge added. Just make sure this is updated all of the patterns. See if it gets the Vera. Yes, fine. It's underway. That's good. So I need to create a nat roll. You at the top. And then we make a firewall rule, which is basically which we want to log, which is ban, save. And we'll see if that works. I think, actually, I've got to do this as a really, really bad firewall rule to start with. Any. I don't think I had to do anything else. Nat roll. Do the thing. Just waiting for the dream machine to say, yes, I'm working. There we go. That's working. And then what we will do, warm the back of the car. Wake this machine up. Mac-based grouping is okay, but the problem is the way things have gone now with what's that whinging at? Huh. Stop whinging. The way things have gone with like mobile phones and stuff, it's becoming more and more difficult. In certain environments, especially where if you've got anything that involves a phone, you have to turn off all the randomized Mac generation. And I would not be surprised if before long you end up with that on hardware, where they make it so that like laptops start to randomize MAC addresses and Windows starts to. I'm pretty sure you can already, but it's that sort of thing. Also, it's a lot more aggro having to type in a MAC address than an IP address. Right, let's just unbind that interface. So that means that that's all fine, and we'll just see what we can squeeze out of this. With some firewall rules on. How are we doing? Yeah, I mean, you can get, if you know the devices you've got, then it's fine. But in a business environment, if it's a small business, it's more aggro than it's worth. It's easier to lock down by range. In a bigger business, if you've got the capacity to deal with the overhead of doing that. I mean, I know college networks that used to do it like 20, 30 years ago, and that's what they were doing. Everything was locked by MAC address because they knew exactly how many machines were plugged onto the network, and it stopped people just plugging stuff in. So it was port-based authentication. I mean, that was an old Novell network. That was hilarious. We brought down the college web servers because they gave us some network cards that were authorized, and we built a proxy server and assigned it the IP address that the college web server had, and we brought down the college web server. Whoops. Yes, it does support IPv6 within limits, but again, until this is not the year of IPv6, and next year won't be either, I don't think. For most people, IPv4 is still more than enough. We were supposed to have run out of IP addresses like 10 years ago, and we still haven't. And I think a lot of that, yes, is like the mobile networks have all switched over to IPv6, but then a lot of those networks have then implemented CGNet. Sticky Mac. I need to get hold of a CBS series switch to go with the AP that I've got. I just haven't had the time or the money, and I want to get hold of. They do a small router as well that goes in with that whole. It's designed to go with the whole Cisco Business Dashboard range. Yes, a lot of ISPs are like their home networks. They will switch over to CGNet, because obviously, if you're not supposed to, if like obviously business ISPs obviously generally want some form of static IP. Therefore, CGNet is not really viable for them. But home users, the argument stands, well, you don't need a static IP if you're not putting services on them, and to have services on your home network is a breach of terms and conditions. So if you need a fixed IP and you're not willing to pay for a fixed IP, you don't get one anymore, and you get stuck behind CGNet. And it means again they can then free up entire IPv4 ranges to sell to business. Who did we have the other day? Actually, we had a client lose their fixed IP. It wasn't a provider we were. They got changed. Their entire IP address range got changed. And I mean, if it was us, I would have been livid, but it wasn't. I mean, it's like, oh well, good thing we weren't using that for anything. Right, allow. Let's get some filtering on there. So we'll do some app control and that. I don't know if. Let's go. Block the quick protocol. There we go. Let's see what happens if I turn that on while it's live. Oh, don't go on about it. Yeah, nobody likes Daisy. Daisy are a pain in the ass. Focus is the other one we have horrendous grief with. Reminds me, actually, I've got a company literally down a couple of doors down that I need to go and sort their broadband out because Focus screwed that up. Right, so yeah, 135 is throughputing. Considering the amount of hops and back hops and hairpinning it has to do. Whoop. We're doing 770 down through a 135. That's on a bridge with IPS turned on and app management turned on. So he's doing packet inspection, just jumping up and down, and it probably would be at a gig if it was connected directly to the server, but it's not. It goes through the Dream Machine, through this, through another Sophos there, out to a Dream Wall, hairpins in a Dream Wall, comes back through another Sophos and into a server. It depends on the service. If you are doing, if it's specific services, it's specific rules for specific services. If it's just generalization, then yes, I'll group like if I want to let all Unify devices access the Unify servers to updates, then I won't even. I'll just group it by IP range because normally we'll have, or we'll group it by network, because sometimes it's just that by the time you've spent, you're not saving anything as such by allowing access to Unify's update servers. You're not protecting endpoints if they can't access Unify update servers, and then when you're on site you're chasing your tail sometimes because it's like, why can't this device access an update server? And it's because it's been assigned the wrong IP or something's been changed or a piece of hardware. So it's always a balance. Certain, obviously it's security, but how far down that rabbit hole do you go? Do you block everything and allow like little tiny little bits out, or do you generate a ton of work for yourself when you're chasing every single application that doesn't work? Or do you generalize a little bit and let certain types of application run so long as they're going through through a certain amount of filtering and things like that? It's how much, some of it comes down to how much do you trust the hardware and software that you're paying money that's supposed to be protecting the services for you. Right, let's have a quick look at live connections. We should be seeing... Yeah, that's fine. SSL traffic over non-SSL ports. I've heard of WaveNet. I've never come across them. Oh, it's still not liking IPS being turned on. Might need to restart this router. But I think that might have to wait for another day. No, that's on. Oh, that's right. It's got no signatures. Yeah, I mean, that is it's a very, very good way of doing it. 802.1x that then assigns you what you can do depending on obviously your machine. But it's only good if you've got the management that can set it up, and obviously once it's set up and working, it's brilliant. But it's getting it up to that standard and keeping it there, because the problem is it's great so long as you've got control. Yeah, I mean, well, obviously we provide our own, and same with lease lines. Why is that not behaving? I've got no IPS policies because it hasn't downloaded them because it's gone wonky. Right, let's turn it off, and wow, that's working well. Might need to reboot this router. That would explain a few things. Services. IPS. Stop. Start. Yeah. Yeah, well, this, I mean, this is the thing we're dealing with, I say, a company that's, I've dealt with the ERP projects are always like that. It's like, this is, they budget so wrongly. It's like, oh, how long are you, it's like, we did a Dynamics, company we were at, we're doing a Dynamics one. Yeah, this exactly, it was literally, they were looking at, it was Dynamics or SAP. And we said at the time, go Dynamics 365. So because by the time you get underway with this, the version of Dynamics that they were looking at installing will be end of life and out of date. So start down the 3. Oh, we can't do that because it doesn't support what we need. Fine, okay. What about in a year's time when you're like 20% of the way through? Oh, we've only budgeted for this. We intend to have this done in a year and a half. It's like, you won't. Took them 3.5 years, I think, before they basically pushed the button on go live. And halfway through that, they had to lift and shift to Dynamics 365. And in that time, we built, that was one of the last VMware clusters that I built. And they didn't listen. They went off. They got CDW did it. And CDW had a Cisco engineer come and install vSAN and make a vSAN cluster, and it was hilarious. He didn't know what the hell he was doing. So yeah, it was just throwing money after money after money. It ran so over budget that it was a joke. Got another one as well. They're changing from a Sage 200 system to a Sage X3 system, and the parent company has basically tighten the purse strings, so every single person that was involved in this project, bar a few, have now been taken off the project or sacked. They've spent millions, and they're still, like, the company part of it I work for, they're just sat twiddling their thumbs because their bit's all done. It's the main company stuff. It's hilarious. It is change of IT leadership, change of IT toys. We're going that way until someone says it otherwise, and then we're doing a 90-degree turn to actually put ourselves back on the correct path because we realised that that guy didn't know what he was talking about. That person, I should say, didn't know what he was talking about. It's exactly that. Every time. Right. And it's amazing how many unfortunately, how many people in the bigger IT company or the big company IT cannot see when they are so blinkered to go down one path, and it causes more headaches than anything else. We forever seeing it. It's like, oh, we've got to do this. It's like, well, why haven't you considered that? And by the way, and in the world's moving, and in 3 years' time, this will be the norm. Oh no, it won't. That will be the norm. A friend of mine who I've worked with is often his stag do at the end of the month. Is a very good cybersecurity engineer. And he was told by the head of IT security at one of the companies we were working at that everything cloud is just a fad. Everything will be back on-prem within 5 years. And I'm pushing him now to do a write-up for LinkedIn to do a proper presentation called Cloud is Just a Fad to demonstrate why it's not. It's exactly that, and unfortunately there's a lot of people that are so set in their way that you need to be able to be flexible with IT and change and move. Right, that's more like it with... It's all right, we've got IPS on now in bridge mode, exactly the same as I had set up with the 106. And the 106 was CPU idling about 60 to 80%. 136 is idling at about 20% on the same load, doing twice the throughput. So we're at 700 meg throughput with IPS on in bridge mode while doing packet inspection. See what we got. CPU. I don't know if it is behaving properly. 45% CPU. It's still saying IPS is turned off, interestingly. It's sort of, this is basically it's a LAN to LAN test. Although it's LAN to LAN via WAN. It's a bridge mode test. So, but what I want to see, so this is again, I probably need to restart this. What I will be building, I want to be able to do this up to 10 gig. So I can actually sit there and test SSL inspection up to 10 gig. Because that's the bit that is actually kind of important in a modern business, is you need to be able to process secure data quickly. Right, I'll let that reboot. Right, I'm going to wind it up now because the other half messaged me and said food will be ready shortly. I'm on 1 gig down, but only 100 meg up. So it's a bit thing. I can do a 1 gig speed test and it will come out at a gig, which is quite useful. Yeah, so we've just been testing for Jet. We were just testing bridge mode, but again, if you are dealing with a gig, you want a gig throughput, or the up to a gig throughput, you're going to need to probably go for a 3 series, so a 3000 XGS 3000 or XG 300 series, that generation, which is the 310 XG 310s are Core i3s, the XG 330s are Core i5s, the XG 400 series are Core i7s or Xeons. Virgin isn't that bad. It's not brilliant, but it isn't that bad. Well, you could, Mike. You just have to pay the money. Right. Let's switch back over to there for now. I am going to say thank you for joining me. I'm going to go get some food because I can smell it and it smells delicious. Yeah, obviously trying to do these every Sunday. Just sort of trying to find things to test. I'm going to try, and I need to rejig so I'm over there a bit more where I've got space. No, I have 1,000 down, 115 up. We get 1,000 and 115 as our two ratios. So actually, you're more than welcome, Jack. As I say, it's it's all right. I'm throttling myself with Sophos, hence why I'm at 100 meg. I've got my Sophos set up to be proper because I'm actually behind a Sophos firewall here. If I go, in theory, actually, if I do that, well, it doesn't really matter. It's all right. This is the problem. I run kit, and so hence why I've got 100, because I'm actually balancing myself out. But I also self-host an open speed test one for testing. See if it will automatically. There we go. Oh, no. Hold on, flick through. See, I'm all over the place at the moment just because I'm going through so many firewalls, doing so many things. Oh dear. Unfortunately, some of the servers I've got Broadcoms, and I've got to try and think whether I'm going to try and use them, and I'll test them, or whether I buy some Intels. But that's the nice thing on all this kit; it's all Intel. So yeah. Right, I'm going to disappear. Thank you for joining me. I will catch you all, hopefully, the similar time next week. So long as, again, I try and squeeze myself in around everyone else. Might be a bit shorter next week. We've been 3.5 hours nearly. Not bad. Right, thank you for watching. I will catch you all next time.